Hey everyone, welcome to episode 35 of the Joe Cannon Health Podcast. I'm exercise physiologist Joe Cannon, and I want to welcome you if this is the first time joining me. This is my effort to bring clarity to the world of health and wellness and nutrition, where each week we talk about a different topic related to exercise, health, wellness, nutrition, whatever it is to help you stay as healthy as you can, as long as you can, all without the hype, no spin, no testimonials, just the facts in plain English, as I like to say it. This week, I'm going to return to my roots, so to speak, and talk a lot about dietary supplements. I have a list of supplements that I think you don't need. And so I'm going to basically expose them for the frauds that they are today. And hopefully you will be able to save some money in the process. But before we get into any of that, I do want to bust the myth. Again, if this is the first time you're hearing me, I like to start off each episode with a health and fitness wellness myth. And this one is kind of a biggie as well, and it involves HIIT training. HIIT training is extremely popular in the gym. HIIT, H-I-I-T, stands for high intensity interval training. One of the reasons that people do high-intensity interval training is to enhance fat loss. But does it really? Is HIIT training, HIIT interval training, is it better than, say, regular low-intensity exercise? A study came out recently that looked at this very topic. It involved 28 healthy, overweight, and obese guys. And these were young to middle-aged guys. They were aged anywhere from 18 to 45 years of age. And they were, again, they were in the overweight to obese category. Looking at their body mass indexes, they were between 25 and 35, which puts them in the overweight and obese category. The study lasted 6 weeks, and these guys were broken up into two different exercise groups. They both rode a stationary bicycle, but they did it differently. One group basically did low-intensity, steady-state exercise bicycling for 30 minutes at a pretty moderate pace, anywhere from 65 to 75% of their maximum heart rate. So a fairly easy to moderate pace for most healthy people. The other group, they did high-intensity interval training on the bike. Basically, what that looked like is 1 minute, they increased the intensity to 90% of their highest achievable heart rate, and that was followed by 1 minute at a much slower cycling pace. So they went 1 minute high intensity, 1 minute low intensity, 1 minute high intensity, 1 minute low intensity. And they did this for 10 HIIT intervals. Again, each high and low intensity is one HIIT interval, and they did it 10 times. Everybody worked out 3 days a week, and they did this for 6 weeks. So over the course of this study, everybody completed 18 exercise sessions, 3 times a week, 6 weeks, that's 18. So what did they actually find in this investigation? No surprise here, everybody's fitness level improved. Their aerobic fitness improved across the board. But by how much? Well, if we look at the steady state exercise group, about 8%. So the people who just rode the bike casually, anywhere from 65 to 75% of their maximum heart rate, their aerobic fitness improved by around 8%. In terms of the high-intensity interval training group, they also improved by about 8%. So both exercise regimens improved their aerobic fitness about the same degree. But what about fat loss? Who lost the most fat? So if I asked you this question right now, who do you think lost the most fat after 6 weeks? The people doing the interval training or the people just riding the bike at a fairly steady pace? Go ahead, I'll give you a minute. Think about that. If we were on Jeopardy, I'd be whistling the Jeopardy tune, but you know what I'm talking about here. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you, in terms of fat loss, no difference. The people doing the interval training and the people riding the bike at a steady pace both lost the same amount of fat. It wasn't a lot, actually. It was just a little bit of fat, maybe a couple pounds here and there, but it was not significant between the two groups. That's a take-home message I think people need to hear. if, for instance, you're starting from square one and you've not exercised before, you haven't exercised in a long time, and that's who these guys were. These were people who hadn't worked out either before or in a long time. If that's you, it doesn't matter what you do. Both regular steady state cardio, whether it's on a bike or a treadmill, whatever, or interval training will improve aerobic fitness about the same degree. And in terms of fat loss, well, this study proves that high-intensity interval training is not the magic fat loss bullet that some people make it out to be. And this is a message I think needs to get out to the fitness community, because they have been hammering this high-intensity interval training mantra for at least a decade that I know about. And so I think they need to hear that. Again, interval training is great. It has its place. I think we just have to look at it in terms of the person that we're prescribing interval training to. If you're just starting out, doesn't matter. If you're more advanced in fitness, okay, you can do interval training. That's fantastic. But in terms of novices, it doesn't appear to matter. And I think this is also really, really good news for those who cannot do high-intensity interval training. For instance, people who have arthritis, fibromyalgia, any kind of joint disorder or pain disorder that limits their ability to move quickly. Because with high-intensity interval training, you are moving quickly, and this can put stress on the joints. So this is good news for people who can't do this. Even steady-state cardio will improve aerobic fitness and also lead to fat loss, and about the same amount of fat loss as those who are doing high-intensity interval training. The other take-home message I got from reading this study, and I think this is the most important one, is that this investigation adds to all the others out there, which proves that exercise alone, exercise by itself, is not very good for weight loss or fat loss. If exercise is really going to work, it needs to be combined with eating fewer calories. Remember, in this investigation, these guys just exercised. They didn't change their diet. And if weight loss is what the goal is, well, we've got to eat fewer calories. Not a lot, just a few less more than usual. And that over time, combined with exercise, will lead to some weight loss in most people. So there you have it. There's my myth of the week. Kind of a myth. Again, HIIT training, it's great. It's fantastic for people who can do it. It will improve fitness levels. But it doesn't appear to be any better than steady-state cardio, at least in these inactive guys. It didn't appear to be any better. And again, that's a message that I think people need to hear. Why don't we hear this message more often? If you ask me, I think it's because the simple answer doesn't get clicks and sell magazines. But generally speaking, the simple answer is usually going to be the correct answer. At least that's a rule of thumb that I tend to live by. So, whatever you want to do is great. Just don't think that you have to do HIIT training. If you can, great, but you can get pretty much all the same benefits working at lower exercise intensities. Okay, so much for the myth of the week. So let's switch gears and let's talk about some dietary supplements. This is something that pretty much I love to talk about. Dietary supplements, gee whiz, has been one of my major areas of investigation for coming up on 30 years now. I'm amazed that when I say that, it's been since the 1990s, early to mid 1990s is when I first got bit by this bug of investigating dietary supplements, and it has never left me. So pretty much every day I review the research on dietary supplements. I speak at length on them on a regular basis. I consult on dietary supplements, even sometimes with dietary supplement companies. They'll email me and ask my opinions on things. So I tell you that not really to toot my own horn. I'm really not. But some of the things that I'm about to say, some of you may say is a little controversial. And I want you to realize that where I'm coming from is basically a guy who has spent a large amount of his life investigating the topic of dietary supplements. I really have not run into too many people in my life who know as much as I do about dietary supplements. And so I tell you that because, again, you may be surprised at some of the things I'm about to say. So let me jump right into this and give you my list of things that I think you probably don't need to be taking. Number 1, raspberry ketones. If you've not heard of these things before, they may be in weight loss supplements that perhaps you're taking right now. Raspberry ketones, right off the bat, I want you to realize are not related to ketosis or the ketogenic diet. Okay, they're not, have no relationship to that. So, and I point that out because sometimes there may be ketogenic supplements that contain raspberry ketones. They're not the same thing. Raspberry ketones are molecules in raspberries that help them smell like raspberries. That's basically all it is. It's kind of their aroma molecules, if you will. Raspberry ketones, I will always remember the day when Dr. Oz boldly proclaimed them to be a miracle in a bottle that'll burn your fat. That day kind of sits in infamy in my mind because it was such a bold statement. I personally think the statement never would have been made if the Dr. Oz producers had used me as a consultant, because it turns out that the quote-unquote miracle was based on only 2 mouse studies. I want to say that again. The proof for raspberry ketones causing weight loss in humans was based on just 2 mouse studies. I'm sorry, you and I are not mice. And I know that some people will say, but Joe, we share a lot of DNA in common with mice. Yeah, but small differences in DNA can lead to large difference in outcomes. For instance, an easy way to see this is there's no mouse out there that's going to live 100 years. Human beings can live 100 or more years. So you can see, just because we may share some DNA does not necessarily mean we're going to result the same way as a mouse would. So again, some miracle, 2 mouse studies. But it's because of that infamous day that I think raspberry ketones have been found in a whole bunch of weight loss supplements. You can buy raspberry ketones by themselves, and they can also be found in multi-ingredient weight loss supplements. The funny thing is, I still can't locate any clinical human study where raspberry ketones by themselves have helped people lose weight. Considering all the hype that surrounds these compounds, you'd think the weight loss research would be better. Again, these things are showing up in dietary supplements to this day still, and I think they have no place in a weight loss dietary supplement. So that's what I got to say about raspberry ketones. If you're taking them, I would say save your money, don't buy them again. Speaking of ketones, that's going to bring us to the dietary supplement number 2 that I want to talk about, and it is exogenous ketones. So now we're kind of drifting in the world of the ketogenic diet world. And because the ketogenic diet has gotten so popular, there are now dietary supplements which contain ketones. The idea here is that if you take these keto supplements, that they'll put you into ketosis without doing the ketogenic diet. I call these exogenous ketones because that's how they're usually depicted on the bottles of dietary supplements. And what is an exogenous ketone? Well, exogenous means outside the body. Exogenous ketones are things that you consume, ketones that you consume. They are not to be confused with endogenous ketones. Endogenous ketones are those that we make naturally. And we do make ketones in small amounts on a regular basis. And as many of you know by now, especially if you're doing the ketogenic diet, ketosis is just the term used for an abnormally high level of ketones in the body. And the idea by taking these ketone supplements, these exogenous ketone supplements, is that they will put you in ketosis without doing the keto diet, the low-carb keto diet. If you have some of these dietary supplements in your house right now, you can take a look at them. Most dietary supplements of exogenous ketones that I see contain one compound in particular called beta-hydroxybutyrate, BHB, beta-hydroxybutyrate. It's a ketone, and you make it, and it's pretty much in every ketone supplement that I have seen. And again, the idea is just take the supplement, put you into ketosis, you'll lose weight, you don't have to change your diet. It's baloney. I can't say this enough. Taking keto supplements will not do the same thing as the ketogenic diet. Ketogenic diet has been around for over 100 years. It does have some medical basis. It seems to reduce the incidence of some forms of epilepsy, and it will absolutely cause weight loss because you're cutting out your carbs, and this is causing a depletion of your stored carbohydrates in your muscles. It's called glycogen. And when you lose carbohydrates, you also lose a lot of water, and this causes some very quick weight loss to occur on a ketogenic diet. That is not in debate at all. But in terms of these dietary supplements that contain ketones, no, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it for 1 minute. Why do I say this? So what we know so far about these supplements is when you take a keto supplement that contains BHB, it will raise your BHB levels. And it makes sense. You take a ketone, your blood levels of ketones are going to go up. That makes perfect sense. That is completely to be expected. One study noted also that if people took this BHB ketone, beta-hydroxybutyrate, it lowered ghrelin levels and the desire to eat. Okay, so what is ghrelin? Ghrelin is a hormone that's made in your stomach. It is a hunger hormone. You ever, for instance, go a long time without eating and your stomach starts to growl? Think of it this way. When your stomach is growling, that's kind of when you're making ghrelin. That's how I like to remember it. When ghrelin levels go up, you get the urge to eat. So in this one small study, and again, it's a small study, it was only 15 people, they noted that when they gave them BHB supplements, that their ghrelin levels went down, and these people said they didn't have to eat as much. If you don't have to eat as much, you don't have the desire to eat, well, then that might mean you might eat fewer calories, and that might mean you might lose weight. In theory, that makes sense. So where's the weight loss evidence for this? No study so far has tackled the effect of ketone supplements and weight loss. Before I recorded this episode, I searched clinical databases. I cannot find one human clinical study that showed taking ketone supplements caused weight loss in human beings. That is huge, considering the popularity of exogenous ketone supplements. Where is the proof? I can show you evidence that the ketogenic diet will cause weight loss. Those studies are out there. They've been known for a long time, but I can't say the same thing for exogenous ketones. And based on that, I would say they're a dud. I would say don't use them. Until they're proven to work, I don't see any reason that they need to be used. Another reason I would consider these compounds a dud is if you go back to 1975, there's an interesting study that is published. And basically, again, small study, they used intravenous ketone infusions. They basically took some people and they infused them with acetoacetate. It's another ketone. So they infused it in their body, and they noted that it appeared to reduce the production of endogenous ketones. Let me say that again. When they intravenously gave ketones to individuals, their natural production of ketones decreased in a small group of overweight people who were also fasting. So they were going on a fasting diet. They weren't eating. And when they were given this ketone infusion, their natural production of ketones decreased. Now, this study was done in 1975. I cannot find a follow-up to this. And I actually did look before I recorded this, and that's quite unfortunate. So if you are a college student listening to me right now, this would make an excellent topic for a dissertation or master's thesis. And let's see if you can come up with the same outcome. If you email me, I'll send you a link to the study. It's pretty easy to find, but yeah, it's an interesting study. Infusion of ketones appear to decrease the production of endogenous, naturally occurring ketones. This kind of makes a little sense when you think about it. It's the same thing, it's the same mechanism that when people take a creatine supplement, their natural production of creatine goes down. When, for instance, people take injections of anabolic steroids, their natural production of anabolic steroids goes down. So that mechanism does make sense, that infusing ketones might reduce the production of ketones naturally by the body. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, this was an intravenous injection, essentially, of ketones. This was not an oral ketone supplement. And that's true. You can't mix apples and oranges here. You may not get the same result if you took a ketone supplement orally. And that's why I said this would make a great dissertation topic for somebody. So I can't tell you that taking an oral ketogenic supplement would reduce the natural production of ketones. Can't say that. I can only say that this study from a long time ago seemed to show that injections of ketones appear to reduce that. But given the implications that maybe it might occur, I think this is definitely worth something to take a look at. So hopefully, again, somebody's going to think more about what I'm saying here and maybe take this in the lab and check it out. But at the end of the day, when it comes to these exogenous ketone supplements, I think the research is in its infancy. I think it's mostly hype-driven and marketing-driven, trying to get clicks on bogus websites. The proof for ketogenic supplements is mostly in laboratory animals. Again, raising your BHB levels, stabilizing blood sugar. Okay, that's all great and fine. At the end of the day, people are not taking these things mostly for blood sugar and raising BHB levels. They're taking these products for weight loss. I cannot find any human proof that they cause weight loss. So until companies start pumping money into better clinical research in this stuff, I'm going to say they're a dud. All right, so that's so much for exogenous ketones. Number 3 is an herb that has been around a long time, and it is called yohimbe. Yohimbe is an herbal ingredient. It contains a compound called yohimbine. So yohimbine, yohimbe, basically the same thing. When I look at dietary supplements that contain yohimbe, again, you can buy this by itself, or it's also in multi-ingredient supplements, usually weight loss supplements, sometimes in male performance supplements, and also occasionally pre-workouts, but mostly I see them in male performance and weight loss supplements. So why is yohimbe on my list of things to avoid? Well, turns out that if you look into this thing, you do in fact find clinical research on yohimbe that shows that it appears to work. It may have some weight loss properties and some other properties that make it quite interesting. And I think that's why some supplement companies will be using this product. While all that sounds really interesting, there are research studies on this. The problem in my book with yohimbe is that it has a potential for side effects. For instance, yohimbe can raise blood pressure, it can elevate heart rate, it may cause headaches, muscle aches, maybe kidney problems, seizures, vomiting. The side effects for yohimbe can be quite severe in some individuals, and also the dosage, and that's why I wanted to bring this to your attention, the dosage in which yohimbe might work seems to overlap with the dosage for side effects. So the same dosage that may make it appealing may also increase the risk of side effects. Based on that, I don't think yohimbe is worth taking. I don't think the side effects are worth it, especially for anybody. And I can't say this any stronger, anybody who has heart problems, blood pressure problems, liver and kidney problems, I would not take yohimbe. It is a very intriguing compound, and again, there are clinical studies on this that do appear to show it has some beneficial effects, but that dosage effect with the side effects, that overlapping dosage effect, just gives me some pretty big pause for concern here. And so based on that, it's definitely on my no-fly zone list. So I would not take it unless we could pin down a better dosage. I would not recommend it. So much for yohimbe. The next topic for our discussion this week is a very popular internet sensation. It's called Garcinia cambogia. Garcinia cambogia is, at one time, it was the most popular weight loss supplement on the internet. It has since been displaced and dethroned by exogenous ketones. But just a few years ago, Garcinia cambogia was everywhere on the internet. And it still is, by the way. I still see some websites touting the weight loss benefits of Garcinia cambogia. And it is also in, you can buy it by itself and as well as in multi-ingredient dietary supplements as well. So what's the scoop on this? So Garcinia cambogia is a fruit. And inside the fruit, there's a compound called hydroxycitric acid. Hydroxycitric acid, sometimes abbreviated simply as HCA. The idea behind Garcinia cambogia hydroxycitric acid is that it's supposed to work, it's supposed to work a number of ways, but mostly by burning fat and by raising levels of a compound called serotonin. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter. You make it in your brain, but also your gut microbiome makes serotonin. And it does a lot of things in the body, such as playing a role in mood and also appetite. So Garcinia cambogia is rumored to burn fat and also reduce your appetite in various ways. When I originally looked at the research on Garcinia cambogia and weight loss, I found 10 different human clinical studies on this, dating back from 1998 all the way up to 2011. Most of these clinical weight loss studies, they involved small numbers of people, which that alone should be a red flag. I normally like seeing weight loss studies that'll have, 50 people, 100 people or more. Sometimes when you see weight loss studies and they'll have 10 people or 6 people, that's an issue right there. So small numbers of studies could be an issue, but more than that. When I looked at the research, the outcomes, the results of the research were all over the place. Half of the studies I found showed it worked, and half of the studies I found showed it didn't work. Even weirder than that, some of the investigations that showed Garcinia cambogia caused weight loss used the exact same dosage or similar dosage as other studies that showed it didn't work. How in the world can that be? Well, that should be a tip-off right there that some of these investigations are probably flawed. They may have some issues with how they were conducted or how the results were tabulated. That's one possibility. And again, that should be a red flag for you right there. If you have half the studies showing it works and half the studies showing it doesn't work, that means it's a crapshoot at best. But when you look at the dosages and you find, say, 3 grams works in one study, but basically 3 grams doesn't work in another study, for instance, that's a problem in my book. So if it really does work, if Garcinia cambogia really does work, the optimal dosage for it to be effective, in my opinion, is not known. And so based on that, you could take a look. If you're taking a dietary supplement that contains this product, you could take a look, and sometimes they'll even tell you the dosage. I would not have an idea of what dosage of Garcinia works if it indeed works, and I personally don't think it works based on the studies that I have seen. Another reason I want to bring Garcinia cambogia to your attention is that there have been several studies over the years which have linked it to liver problems, including liver failure. And that's, again, one of the real reason I wanted to bring this to your attention. There have been several reports over the last several years where people basically went into the hospital with liver problems, and doctors write it up in a report. And what they all basically have in common is they're taking dietary supplements that contained Garcinia cambogia. Some of these people recovered fine, after a little bit of time. Some of these individuals, unfortunately, needed liver transplants. And I can't say that more seriously. Liver transplant is super serious. We're not talking about a spleen here. You can live without your spleen. You need your liver. The liver is one of the most important organs in your body. Now, when I looked into this a few years ago, I found 11 different cases of liver issues associated with Garcinia cambogia dietary supplements. Many of these reports did in fact appear to be linked to multi-ingredient supplements. So in other words, it wasn't Garcinia cambogia alone. It was some supplement that had maybe 10 different ingredients. And we don't know, based on those reports, if it was Garcinia cambogia alone that caused liver failure. Just that it might have been something. Could it be something else, perhaps, that caused it? Well, maybe. But there is now at least one human study of liver failure resulting from Garcinia cambogia by itself. This report came out a few years ago, and unfortunately, this person required a liver transplant. To me, that seals the deal that, at least in some people, Garcinia cambogia is liver toxic. Again, it may be found in different weight loss supplements, and again, it can also be purchased alone by itself. So again, if you're taking a weight loss dietary supplement, study the ingredients. If they don't tell you the actual amount of Garcinia cambogia, sometimes it may be listed as part of a proprietary blend, and they'll say it contains a proprietary blend of ingredients, and all those ingredients add up to 1,000 milligrams or something like that. Look at where the Garcinia cambogia is listed in that proprietary blend. The higher up you see it in the list, the more prevalent it would be, the more of that proprietary blend it would make up. So if it's the last ingredient you see, it would make up the least of the proprietary blend. But regardless, the fact that it's there makes me not want to recommend those type of dietary supplements, because again, I can't say enough that liver problems are extremely serious, and someone who needs a liver transplant, oh my goodness, that's just it's earth-shattering to anybody who needs that. So again, this is as serious as a heart attack in my book, and I honestly don't know why companies continue to use Garcinia cambogia. These reports have been out a long time, and again, I wish companies would take it out of products. Again, I don't see it as much these days as I used to, mostly because it's been displaced by other supplements. But again, looking online, I still do see supplements that contain it, and I have to wonder why. I can't prove that it works. I can't tell you the optimal dosage, and the liver failure connection issue again is disturbing in my book. So I'll leave it at that. Garcinia cambogia, definitely not a product that I would suggest adding to your supplement regimen. Again, it just doesn't, I don't get a good feeling from it. And then the final thing I want to talk about this week is what is sometimes just simply called male performance supplements. And again, I'm going to leave it vague because my podcast is G-rated, but you kind of understand what I'm talking about when I say male performance. I'm not talking exercise here. These male performance supplements have been around for a long time, decades, if not longer than that. I sometimes liken them to the old videotape store, where sometimes you go to these videotape stores, and in the back of the store was the porn section. And usually when I go into a health food store and where do I see these male performance supplements usually stacked in the back of the store? So I don't know, coincidence maybe. It's just something that occurred to me. To be honest with you about these male performance supplements, I honestly can't recommend any of them. There's not one out there that I actually have any faith in. When I look at different supplements in this genre over the years, they pretty much are all the same ingredients in different boxes. The premise behind male performance supplements is the company is trying to boost nitric oxide levels in the body. Nitric oxide is a gas that's made in your blood vessels, mostly. And one of the things it does is that it relaxes the muscles in your blood vessels, opening them up. This is called vasodilation. And if you can open up the blood vessels in the body, you can get more blood to where it's got to get to. When I look at these male performance supplements, what do I tend to see? I see arginine, which is an amino acid that helps us make nitric oxide. And so that makes sense why I'd see that. I'll often also see another amino acid called citrulline or L-citrulline. And what does L-citrulline do? L-citrulline helps us make arginine. So again, it's a feed-forward system. You've got an amino acid that helps you make arginine, and you also have arginine. The idea is both of these amino acids together will increase nitric oxide levels. I'll also sometimes see niacin as well, because niacin is also a vasodilator. I have no doubt that these ingredients, and there's others out there, that will increase nitric oxide. There's no doubt about that. The idea is, will they increase nitric oxide in the area of the body that men are hoping for? Maybe, maybe not. It's debatable at best whether they work. Yeah, if you look far enough into the research, you will find studies that show that they can help men. But again, this whole idea of what we're talking about, and we're talking about ED, erectile dysfunction here, that's complicated. It's a complicated phenomenon. And again, it's possible that sometimes these supplements may work for some people, but they may not work for other people. It would just depend on the nature of the ED we're talking about. But more than that. I said a little bit ago that I honestly would not feel comfortable looking at really any of these supplements. And the reason I said that is this whole area of male performance supplements, this is a pretty shady area. And why do I say that? Because over the last at least decade or more that I've been paying attention to this, there have been almost countless recalls of these types of supplements. Why are they being recalled? Well, they're being recalled because they contain drugs. The drugs I'm talking about are Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, male performance drugs. Or sometimes these supplements will contain molecules that are chemically look-alike compounds to these drugs. So they won't exactly be, say, Viagra, but there'll be a molecule that looks kind of like Viagra. The idea is, if it looks like it, it may work like it. And then when the FDA finds these things, and again, they don't find them all, but when they do, they usually, write a nasty letter to the company and they shut them down. The issue here is that these drugs and these molecule-like drugs, they're not listed on the labels of the dietary supplements. You wouldn't know you're taking them if you're taking some of these supplements. So men don't know that they're actually taking the drugs sometimes. Finding these drugs and supplements, it happens so often that I just cannot believe it's a coincidence. It happens a lot. And I actually wrote a review on this many years ago on my Supplement Clarity website where I started highlighting all these. And I actually had to stop because the emails were coming in so fast that I was like almost, on a regular basis, I was updating that review so much. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I looked into it more and I just found even more of these dietary supplements. And I just said, you know what? I'm gonna let this one go and just tell people that, again, these male performance supplements, they may work, they may not work, but in some cases they may work too well. And one of the reasons they may work too well is they may have other things that you're not aware of. And again, the mere fact that I'm seeing erection drugs in erection supplements so often tells me that these supplements don't work as well as what some people might think. If you want to know where to look for all these, and there is a list out there, as I said, I stopped maintaining my list because I didn't have the time to keep up with all because there were hundreds of these things out there. So, but if you want to see the entire list, the FDA does maintain a list. I sometimes call it the wall of shame, and it's not just not the wall of shame of these male performance supplements. It's a wall of shame for pretty much all the supplements out there that have had recalls for various not so good reasons. How do you find this wall of shame? So you go into your search engine of choice and just enter in this phrase, FDA tainted supplements. FDA tainted supplements. That's all it takes. Don't worry if you're driving. I'm going to put this this link in the episode notes. You go to joe-cannon.com, search for episode 35. You scroll down to where the citations are, and it'll take you right there. But FDA tainted supplements, that's going to share with you the actual list. And basically the FDA gives you the name of the supplement, the company, and the reason for the recall. And if you look at these male performance supplements, the reason for the recall in many instances is that, for what I'm telling you here, they contain either the actual ED drug or they contain a look-alike molecule that the FDA says has no place in dietary supplements. So besides being illegal, you can't have drugs in dietary supplements. So that right off the bat is a problem. But besides being illegal, these Viagra and these Levitra, Cialis things, and other medications, they can cause a drop in blood pressure, which for some people can be drastic. So for people, for instance, who may be taking heart medications or high blood pressure medications, and they are also taking some of these ED supplements, maybe they have a blood pressure drop that goes too low, and maybe they pass out. Again, it's a worst case scenario, but it is a possibility. As a matter of fact, if you watch the commercials for some of these drugs, you even notice in the commercials, they say, watch what you're taking because it could cause a drastic drop in blood pressure. So talk to your doctor, depending on the medication you're taking. Trivia, and again, this is I like trivia. Viagra was originally studied to be a blood pressure lowering drug. They discovered Viagra and they said, let's see if it'll reduce blood pressure. And the men in the study started reporting on a odd side effect that they said, hey, doctor, can you give me some more of those little blue pills? Something else is happening. At that point, I got to think that the scientists kind of like put the brakes on the blood pressure research and kind of went in an entirely different direction that we all know from watching these TV commercials where these drugs are incessantly marketed to us. But again, that's the history of these drugs. They're originally designed for blood pressure. And again, that's why people who have blood pressure problems, who may be taking medications, there could be an additive effect. So that's why you have to monitor them. Well, if you're taking the drug, that's great. But if you're taking a dietary supplement that contains them and you don't know that, again, there's an issue. And that's why I wanted to bring this to your attention. I'm not convinced these male performance supplements work for everybody, but if they do work, and they do work really well, your spidey sense may make you wonder why. And at that point, you might jump on the FDA website and see if that product is listed. But there you have it. There are my 5 dietary supplements that I suggest you save your money on. The research is either not there yet, or the product, may have some odd side effects that I personally don't think is worth your money and worth your time. Are there more supplements in this? Oh, absolutely. You betcha. There's a boatload of them out there, but I want to give you a kind of an idea of what's out there, just to make you think a little bit as you think about supplements. And I don't want to give you the impression by this that I'm anti-supplement. I am not anti-dietary supplement. I take some dietary supplements myself. And again, that's something that I'm going to be doing a podcast on, I would say, in the near future. So stay tuned for that, because there are some things out there I do like, and there are some good companies out there that I like as well. So again, I just want to give the impression that I'm anti. I'm really not. There's some good stuff out there. But if you want to get an idea of how to evaluate supplements, and that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to do this, because I like giving you some ideas on how to evaluate what you're taking. If you were to jump back in the archives, go all the way back to episode number 1. Number 1's where I gave you a whole bunch of dietary supplement buying tips. So check that out. Those are actually some of the things that I use myself when I investigate a dietary supplement. So check that out for more information. Hopefully you got some good stuff out of this week's episode. Hopefully I saved you some money. Hopefully I maybe saved you a headache here and there. But let me know what you think about this. Feel free to email me at either of my websites, joe-cannon.com, or my other website, supplementclarity.com. I really also want to thank you all for sharing my website. Again, I can't thank you enough, because I am basically the chief cook and bottle washer over here. I was listening to a podcast recently where at the end of the podcast, they basically thanked everybody who was involved. Our marketing director and our graphic designer. And as I was driving along listening to this, I was like, it was like marketing director Joe Cannon, graphic designer Joe Cannon. But really, when it comes to sharing these podcast episodes, really it's you guys. And I do know a lot of you share it with your friends and your colleagues. So I definitely want to thank you a lot for that. For instance, Amanda, thank you very much. I do know you talk about my class in my podcast in your exercise classes. So I want to thank you for that. Again, Amanda is just one of the people who helps me get the word out, and I am infinitely grateful to her and everybody else who does this. So, and I will leave you with basically the quote of the day, and I'll get out of your hair for this week. The quote of the day, which I think is kind of apropos for this week, and it kind of is short and sweet, goes like this: choose to be optimistic. It feels better. The Dalai Lama. I think his words really are appropriate as we're all living through the coronavirus pandemic that is gripping us all these days. I know you can't turn on the news without hearing what's happening, at least here in America. and also other places. Italy, for instance, I know is getting hit very hard. It's not just China. But I think, be optimistic. You're going to go through your day better. And at the end of the day, I really do believe we're going to be okay. I also think, and I continue to believe, that a lot of this stuff we hear about the coronavirus is driven by ratings. And that's why I choose not to watch the 24-hour opinion networks anymore. I choose to get it, my own way. There's, I have different ways of getting the news, but not the 24-hour news networks. Watch your local news. Local news is fine, but those 24-hour things, they got to talk about something, and they're going to talk about, the big story, which is right now the coronavirus. And in the world of news, if it bleeds, it leads. And the coronavirus is bleeding right now. It is the huge story that everybody wants to talk about. And I unfortunately think that's making a lot of people afraid. I'm seeing people on Facebook say they don't even want to go to gyms anymore because they're afraid. And, even I went to Walmart this morning before I recorded this episode, and, Walmart didn't have any more of those disinfecting wipes. And I'm seeing other things popping up of pictures of this on Facebook and Instagram. So be optimistic, stay calm. We're going to be okay. I'm confident of that. And so should you be as well. Until next time, gang, go out, be safe. Take care, and where you can, try to make a difference.